The purple child must not leave that square.
Bring me the head of the boy.
Who are you?
Someone who has watched over your son since the day he was born.
You saved us?
I will always save you.
They say the realm of Azurali was born from a single tear from the Sky Mother, dropped into the darkness before creation. Where the tear fell, light grew, and where the light grew, shadows learned to dance. For as long as anyone remembered, a person's shadow was their identity, their destiny, and their power. In Azurali, shadows were more than silhouettes on the ground. They were alive, glowing with colors that pulsed softly behind each individual like an ever-present spirit. A purple shadow meant royalty, born from the ancient thrones or chosen by the gods themselves. A red shadow meant warrior, fierce protectors with the fire of the realm burning through their veins. A blue shadow signified waterbenders, those who shaped rivers and seas with their hands. Green shadows belonged to healers, connected to nature and capable of coaxing life back into dying flesh. And the very rare pale blue shadows controlled the air, commanding storms, winds, and the shifting weather of Azurali. The realm had existed peacefully for generations under these ranks, or so it appeared. But peace in Azurali was fragile, because purple shadows sometimes appeared where they were not welcome. A child born of simple families, a child born outside the throne's reach, a child destined to overthrow the ruling line. These children were miracles to the people and threats to the throne. Only 2 such children had ever been recorded, both murdered, their families erased, their names forbidden. Azurali remembered, even if the rulers pretended to forget. It was in the quiet valley of Muzari, among simple mud brick homes and rising mist, that a boy named Tiza came into the world. His parents, Daya and Hubu, were weavers who lived modestly but smiled easily. Tiza's first cry was soft, barely louder than the rustle of wind. He was an ordinary child, or so everyone believed. Children in Azurali discovered their shadows at age 12. Until then, they were simply children, running through gardens, chasing deer-glow insects, swimming in river light. Tiza grew like any boy, curious, warm-hearted, with big dust-colored eyes and a quiet smile. His younger sister, Agata, adored him. She followed him everywhere, tugging his tunic, stealing his snacks, asking endless questions. Tiza always answered, never annoyed, always gentle. What no one knew, not even Tiza, was that the Sky Mother watched him from above, her unseen eye glittering like a fading star. Because Tiza was the rarest thing in all Azurali. He was born without a shadow. When Tiza turned 12, the entire family prepared for the shadow day. Daya cleaned the home 3 times. Hubu braided Agata's hair with tiny silver rings. Tiza wore a clean tunic, the color of morning clay.
They traveled toward the great temple where a bonfire burned under the rising sun. The fire cracked with blue-white light, its sparks floating upward like living stars. People gathered in a half-circle, children from every province, parents trembling in anticipation, healers humming ancient songs. At the center stood the priestess of shadows, a woman known only as Mother Adi. She wore flowing robes woven with runes that shimmered faintly. Her hair, long and braided, touched the earth as she walked. Her eyes glowed with the soft green tint of ancient magic. Mother Adi prepared a special drink, a shimmering concoction made from moon bark and dawn petals. Each child would drink it, then stand before the fire and watch as their shadow color appeared behind them. Tiza stood in line, heart racing. He watched as other children discovered their destinies. A girl stepped forward, her shadow turned red, and the crowd cheered. A boy followed, his shadow glowed green, and healers embraced him. A quiet girl trembled, her shadow flared into bright water blue, and her mother cried with joy. Tiza swallowed hard. Then his name was called. Tiza stepped before the priestess. Mother Adi looked into his eyes. Her expression softened, almost worried. She handed him the drink. Tiza sipped it, bitter, sweet, warm, cold. His body tingled. The rising sun touched his back. The fire crackled. Tiza stood still, and nothing happened. The ground behind him remained empty. No glow, no shape, no color. Dias gasped. Hubu froze. Agatha covered her mouth. Whispers broke out instantly. He has no shadow. Is he cursed? Is he dying? Is he even one of us? Dia grabbed Hubu's arm in panic. Hubu pulled Tiza close protectively. Agatha, his eyes filled with tears. But Mother Adi stepped forward sharply, raising her hand. Silence. The crowd obeyed. She looked at Tiza again, this time not with worry, but with awe. There is only one reason a child would have no shadow, she murmured. The gods have hidden it. Dia trembled. Is that bad? No. Mother Adi's voice dropped to a whisper. It means he is chosen. Chosen for what? Hubu stared at her. The priestess didn't answer. Instead, she stepped between Tiza and the crowd, shielding him with her robes. Then, so quietly, only the family could hear. The throne must not know about this, ever. The priestess led them into a sealed stone chamber under the temple. Torchlight flickered across rough walls. Tiza shivered, not from fear, but from the strange warmth pulsing inside his chest. It felt like something asleep in him had stirred. The Mother Adi pointed at him. That boy is destined to protect a future ruler. A child with a purple shadow, the next true heir chosen by the gods. But purple children are killed. Dias covered her mouth. Yes, Mother Adi nodded. That is why Tiza exists. Me? Protect someone. I'm nobody. Not anymore, she said, kneeling to meet his eyes. Listen, child without a shadow. You are more powerful than any red, blue, green, or air-shadowed warrior. Your shadow is not missing. It is all of them, hidden until the time is right. So what do I do? You will become my apprentice, and together we will prepare you for the day the next purple child is born. For that day, the realm will burn. She placed a hand on his forehead. A faint green glow wrapped around him. His body felt light, almost floating. Behind him, the illusion of a green shadow flickered into existence. A false shadow, a disguise. So the realm will not fear you, and so you may learn. Dia hugged her son tightly. Hubu rested his hand on Tiza's shoulder. Agatha sniffed loudly, holding his tunic sleeve. And so it was decided. Tiza, the boy without a shadow, would train in secret, would learn every power, every art, every path. He would become the unseen guardian of a child who did not yet exist, a child who would one day challenge the throne, a child whose fate would shape all Azurali.
The seasons in Azurali did not change softly. They shifted with force, as if the realm wished to remind its people that power was always watching. When Tiza entered the temple as Mother Adi's apprentice, Muzari Valley was wrapped in the cool breath of the wind month. But by the time his first year passed, the valley had bloomed under the full blaze of the sun month. Time was moving, and with each passing day, Tiza began to change. Mother Adi began his teachings in the quiet hours before sunrise. Tiza would rise from his pallet, slip into simple gray training robes, and meet her in the hidden courtyard where morning mist curled around ancient stones. The training ground was carved into the heart of the temple, protected, silent, untouched by prying eyes. Here, beneath carved stone faces of forgotten gods, Tiza learned the arts no single person was ever meant to master. The first lesson was fire. Mother Adi placed 2 candles before him. She said, one to ignite, one to extinguish. Tiza frowned. But I don't have a red shadow. She corrected, you have no shadow. That means you can become anything. Tiza extended his hands. At first, nothing happened. He concentrated harder. Heat tingled in his fingers. A soft spark cracked. Then a burst of flame jumped from his palm, igniting not one, but both candles and scorching the floor beneath them. Mother Adi's eyes widened. Tiza gasped, clutching his hand. It wasn't burned, but it trembled with raw power. Mother Adi whispered, "The gods have given you more than I expected." Weeks later, she took him to the temple's inner pool. The water was clear as glass, glowing softly with moonlight trapped from generations of enchantment. She told him, "Listen, water only moves for those who respect its rhythm." Tiza touched the pool. At first, the water cooled his fingers. Then it began to swirl around his hand, climbing his wrist, rising like a serpent made of liquid silver. Tiza gasped. "I can feel it, like it's alive." She murmured, "It is alive, and it recognizes you." Within months, he could form water shields, water blades, and even breathe underwater for long stretches. Still, Mother Adi insisted he was only at the beginning. This path was not learned with force, but with empathy. Mother Adi brought wounded animals to the courtyard, a trembling sand deer with a torn leg, a river bird with a broken wing. She told Tiza, "You must not heal with power, you must heal with intention." He placed his hands on the deer. Warmth flowed from his palms. A green light bloomed softly. The wound closed, knitting like vines forming new leaves. He gasped, almost afraid of himself. Mother Adi smiled. "You have the heart of a healer." But the next morning, she placed a training staff in his hands, and the duty of a warrior. Air was the hardest. Mother Adi explained, "The wind listens to no one. You must not order it, you must move with it." For months, Tiza failed. His hair whipped around. His robes flew into his face. He fell. He rolled. He cursed. Mother Adi laughed at him, a rare sight. She said, "You will not conquer the air by will alone. You must lighten your spirit." After another month, Tiza finally understood. He stopped forcing it. He breathed. He let the air come to him. Then, a soft breeze curled around his fingers. A wind spiral lifted leaves off the floor. A swirl of air circled him like a guardian. For the first time, Tiza smiled proudly. Years passed. Tiza grew taller, stronger, sharper. The muscles of a warrior formed on his frame. His eyes learned both patience and threat. He wielded fire without flinching, water without fear, healing without hesitation, air without pressure. But Mother Adi never let him forget. You were not trained for glory. You were trained to protect the one who will rule. Tiza nodded, but doubt still filled him. "How will I know this child?" he asked one night. She whispered, "You will feel it." "How?" "When the gods move, every chosen one feels the shaking." One night, in the darkest hour, Tiza woke gasping. His chest burned with sudden heat. His hands trembled. His heart pounded as if struck by lightning. He stumbled outside into the courtyard. Mother Adi was already there, breathing heavily, clutching her staff. "You felt it too," she said. Tiza nodded. What is happening?" Mother Adi looked towards the east, where distant lights shimmered faintly. "A child has been born," she whispered. "A child with a purple shadow." Tiza stumbled backwards. "She's already here?" Mother Adi corrected softly. "Not she. A boy. His mother is widowed. His father died in battle years ago." "Where?" Tiza asked. "Kipazi province." Tiza swallowed. Kipazi, one of the poorest yet most watched regions in the realm. Mother Adi placed a hand on his shoulder. "His name is Zuri. You must guard him, silently. No one must know he exists except his mother and you." Tiza nodded. His destiny was finally unfolding. Zuri grew up fatherless, living in a tiny clay home on the edge of the Kapazi fields. His mother sold river herbs and moon tea to survive. She worked endlessly, often returning home with trembling hands and tired eyes. Zuri was a quiet child, lean, sharp-eyed, always watching the world like it was a puzzle he needed to understand. He laughed rarely, but when he did, it was soft and beautiful, like chimes in the wind. His mother knew he was special. The gods whispered to her dreams. She did her best to keep him hidden, but purple was not a color one hid easily. Even at birth, his swaddling cloth cast a faint glow behind him, a soft violet flicker, only visible during certain moon phases. She prayed no one else had seen it. Tiza arrived in Kipazi the day after Zuri's birth. He did not approach the child. He did not speak to his mother. He only watched, quietly, invisibly, like a ghost. For years. From rooftops, from shadows, from forest edges, from crowds. He saw Zuri grow, saw him chase insects in the fields, saw him study scrolls others his age ignored, saw him help his mother carry heavy pots even though his arms were too small. Tiza grew protective, yet kept distance. He never interfered, but he saved them silently. When a starving, red-shadowed bandit tried to rob their home, Tiza knocked him unconscious before he reached the door. When Zuri almost fell into a river,
A sudden burst of air pushed him back to safety. When the king's soldiers passed too close, Tiza pulled a cloak of illusion over the home. Zuri never knew, the mother never knew, but Tiza knew that one day the world would learn of this boy, and when it did, the throne would try to kill him. Far away in the gleaming palace, King Ibaku grew uneasy. Because months before Zuri's shadow was due to be revealed, murmurs spread through the realm. Rumors whispered. A purple light was seen in Kipazi. Someone saw a glow near the river. The gods are angry. Ibaku clenched his fist around his jeweled staff. He was not a man who feared the gods. He feared losing power. And nothing threatened his throne more than the birth of a purple-shadowed child. He sent spies, then soldiers, then priests. None found the child, but the king felt the truth crawling up his spine. Someone was hiding a future ruler, and Ibaku vowed to burn the entire province if he had to. The years rolled by. Zuri turned 12, and the law of Azurali was absolute. Every child must appear at the shadow ceremony, no exceptions. Zuri's mother tried to run, tried to hide, tried to flee to another province under nightfall, but guards blocked every gate. Priests announced inspections. The king tightened his grip around Kipazi like a steel trap. Zuri would reveal his shadow. The king would be there, and death would follow. Mother Adi knew this.
Her face was pale as moonstone as she sent a message through the winds. "Tiza, it is time." Tiza exhaled slowly. For 12 years he had waited, prepared, watched. Now the gods were ready to move. And when gods move, mortals bleed. Morning arrived like a held breath. Kipazi province, usually noisy with market cries and clattering pots, sat unnaturally silent. Doors were shut, windows covered. Smoke from cooking fires rose thin and nervous into the sky. Because today, every child turning 12 would stand before the priests, and among them, one child carried the vengeance of the gods in his blood. Zuri walked beside his mother, both dressed in simple gray tunics. Her hands shook as she adjusted the fabric around his shoulders. "Keep your head down. Do not look at the king's men." Zuri nodded. He wasn't afraid, not exactly. He didn't know why, but something inside him felt calm, anchored, as if the world could scream around him and he would not tremble. A strange warm glow pulsed faintly at the base of his spine, like a heartbeat not his own. Concerned. Her mother felt it too. Her grip tightened. They joined the line of trembling children and anxious parents, standing before the massive Kipazi pyre, the ceremonial bonfire built from enchanted wood. Priests chanted. Guards stood like statues. Drums beat slowly, each echoing the dread in the crowd. Tense. Hidden. Tiza watched from above, perched on the roof of a nearby grain tower. His hood shadowed his face. His armor, dark, lightweight, forged in silence, blended with the rooftop stones. His eyes never left Zuri. A sudden blast of trumpets sliced through the air. The crowd fell to their knees. A procession of riders entered the square, wearing armor of obsidian and gold. Grim tone. At the center rode King Ibaku, his purple robes billowing like a storm cloud, his eyes sharp and hungry. Neutral, descriptive. He was not tall. He was not gentle. His power came not from divinity, but from fear. Watchful. Sitting beside him was his high priest, a gaunt man named Tutu, face painted with symbols of authority. His eyes scanned the children as if searching for a secret only he knew. Anxious, whispering. Zuri's mother pulled her son close. Her heartbeat thundered. She forced a smile she didn't feel. "No, my son, everything will be fine." She lied. Every mother in Kipazi would have lied the same. Methodically, paced, the priests lined the children before the bonfire. One by one, a child stepped forward, drank the revealing concoction, and faced the fire as the rising sun touched their backs. Soft, amazed. A girl's shadow flared green. A boy's glowed bright blue. Another burst into red flames. Quiet applause. People cheered weakly.
Zuri felt heat pulsing through his body. His fingertips tingled. Tiza crouched lower on the roof. His breath steadied. whispered, encouraging, "Hold on, Zuri, I'm here." Then a priest gestured, "Next child, Zuri of House Adimi." The crowd fell silent, as if the wind itself stopped. Zuri stepped forward slowly. He accepted the cup. The liquid shimmered strangely before he drank. His mother watched, trembling violently. King Ibaku leaned forward on his throne settle. The high priest Tutu narrowed his eyes. The sun lifted just enough for a single ray to land behind Zuri. The bonfire crackled. A hush fell over the entire square. Zuri stood tall, calm, still. And then his shadow erupted behind him in a burst of purple light. Not a soft glow, not a gentle shimmer. No, it exploded like lightning striking water. A vivid royal purple silhouette towered behind him, pulsing like a heartbeat, alive with divine energy. Gasps broke from the crowd. A woman fainted. A guard stumbled backward. Children screamed. The king shot to his feet. "No!" His voice cracked like a whip. The high priest shouted, "Seize him!" Zuri froze in shock. His mother lunged forward. But she wasn't fast enough. Guards charged. Before the first guard reached the boy, a blur dropped from the sky. Tiza landed in the center of the square with the force of a crashing meteor, cracking the stone beneath his boots. Dust exploded outward. The crowd fell back, stunned. Zuri stared wide-eyed. His mother covered her mouth in disbelief. Tiza rose slowly from his crouch, hood falling back to reveal his face. For the first time in 12 years, Zuri saw his protector. Tiza's eyes glowed faintly, not one color, but shifting hues of red, blue, green, and wind silver. A warning, a promise, a storm in human form. A guard shouted, "He has no shadow!" Another screamed, "He's the one from the prophecy!" King Ibaku snarled, "Kill him!" Tiza did not wait. He moved. A burst of air slammed through the guards like a wave, throwing armored men backward into the dust. He spun, and fire erupted from his palms, forming a blazing arc that forced the next line of soldiers to retreat. Swords clanged, priests screamed incantations. The square became chaos. Zuri stood frozen until his mother pushed him. "Run!" But Tiza was already beside them. He grabbed Zuri's forearm. His touch was firm, steady, safe. "Come with me if you want to live." Zuri didn't hesitate. Tiza lifted his hand and swept it sideways. A wall of water burst from the air itself, shimmering, twisting into a shield as arrows slammed into it harmlessly. He pulled Zuri and his mother into the alley. Behind them, armored boots echoed louder and louder. The shout had the shouting, and tense forward. The high priest screamed, "The purple child must not leave that square!" King Ibaku's voice roared, "Bring me the boy's head!" Tiza ran with them through winding alleys, leaping over crates, sliding beneath hanging cloths, pushing past startled villagers. Zuri's mother gasped, "Who are you?" Tiza answered between breaths, "Someone who has watched over your son since the day he was born." Zuri looked up at him with wide eyes. You saved us? I will always save you." Behind them, armored boots echoed louder and louder. They reached the edge of the province, where tall walls loomed ahead. Guards blocked the gate. More soldiers closed in behind. Zuri gripped Tiza's arm. "What do we do?" Tiza closed his eyes. "Hold on." He placed both hands on the ground. Energy surged. The air thickened. Dust vibrated. The light dimmed. Then a massive column of wind spiraled upward, lifting stones, sand, and the three of them into the air. Villagers gasped. Guards screamed. Even the king's distant soldiers halted in shock. Wind coiled around Tiza like a living dragon, carrying them high above the rooftops. Awestruck, Zuri clung tightly to him, eyes wide with wonder and fear. His mother whispered a prayer. Below them, the army could only watch as they soared over the walls and vanished into the burning horizon. The king rode to the square, face red with rage. He slammed his staff against the ground. "How could you fail me?" His generals trembled. No one answered. The high priest Tutu bowed low. "My king, the child has a protector unlike we have seen. The prophecy." "Do not speak of prophecy." Ibaku's roar echoed across Kipadzi. Then he whispered, voice cold as night, "Find them, track them, burn every province if you must, but bring me the boy." His gaze darkened, "And kill the Shadowless one." From that day forward, Azurali entered a new era, an era of pursuit, of fear, of divine destiny. Tiza and Zuri were now fugitives, hunted, despised by the throne, guided by the gods. And ahead of them lay a journey that would shape the fate of the realm, a journey through forests, deserts, sky bridges, ancient ruins, and battlefields, a journey where Zuri would learn to fight, to lead, to become the ruler the throne feared. And Tiza would become legend. The air of Azurali changed. Not overnight, not like thunder. It changed the way a dying star changes, slowly, painfully, quietly, until one day everyone realized the sky no longer looked the same. The winds stopped singing their old songs. The rivers carried whispers instead of reflections, and the shadows began to tremble. Tiza felt it first. He stood at the edge of a broken mountain ridge, his armor scratched, burned and weathered, staring down at a city that once glowed with life. The metal plates around his shoulders hummed softly, reacting to the power inside him. Beside him stood Zuri, no longer a child, no longer a fragile secret, now a warrior wrapped in layered silver armor, with a cloak that moved even when the wind did not. His purple shadow stretched behind him, long, regal, alive. Tiza's voice dropped. "It has begun." And Zuri understood. Back in the Obsidian Palace, the heart of King Ibaku's reign, cracks began to form. Not in the walls, in the man. King Ibaku stood alone in a hall of molten black crystal. The flames from the braziers around him burned blue, reacting not to air, but to fear. He pressed one armored hand against his chest. Something was coming. The priests had warned him. The child without a shadow lives. The purple shadow breathes. He had laughed. Now he couldn't. A servant approached, Buba, a quiet man with eyes too soft for war. "My king, the outer provinces are in unrest." "How many?" "Too many to silence quietly." The king's shadow flared red. Fire danced along the walls. "Then we don't silence them quietly." The first revolt did not start with swords. It started with fear. Villages began to hide their children. Mothers stopped registering births. Priests stopped reporting shadow colors. And when the kingdom guards arrived, they found silence. In a village made of curved metal and grown crystal, Zuri and Tiza stood hidden among tall grain-like reeds that shimmered silver. The guards marched through, armored boots, spears glowing faintly. Tiza whispered, "Do not fight unless you must." But a child cried, not loudly, softly, the wrong kind of soft. A guard turned, pointed, "There." They tried to run. The reeds caught at their armor. The ground trembled. And that was when Tiza stepped forward. Not in rage, not in hatred, but in acceptance. He raised his hands. The air shifted. Fire curled around his left arm, water spiraled around his right, wind lifted dust into a spinning wall, green light pulsed beneath his skin. He did not kill. He disarmed, he pushed, he broke weapons, he shattered control. The guards fled, not defeated, shaken. Zuri stared at him. That night, by the fire, Zuri asked, "What are you?" Tiza answered quietly, "Something the gods made when they grew tired of watching." Rebellion changes people. Responsibility reshapes bones. Zuri stopped asking questions. He started listening. He trained without being asked. He stood deeper into danger. He began sleeping lighter. Tiza draped new armor onto him, lighter plates, more flexible. "This will not make you invincible," Tiza said, "but you will not break easily." Zuri flexed his hands. "I don't want to rule." Tiza paused. "Then don't." Zuri looked up. "Then why am I necessary?" Tiza's voice became softer than sunlight. "Because tyranny only fears the unwilling ruler." King Ibaku did not sleep. He hunted. He released the whisperers, elite scouts wrapped in cloaks that bent light, their shadows detached and moving ahead of them like snakes. Tiza felt them before he saw them, always did. They attacked at night. Steel met energy. The world narrowed to breath and movement. Tiza fought, not perfectly, but bravely. He got cut once, shallow across the arm. He didn't cry. He didn't stop. The whisperers retreated. One looked back. The purple shadow is not afraid. News spread, not from mouths, from fear. Villages began to whisper a name, not Zuri, not King Ibaku, but a story. The child with no shadow walks again, a protector, a walking storm, a silent god. Tiza never asked for worship. He never wanted myth, but myth began to follow him. In one town, a healer named Tutu tied a white cloth around Zuri's wound. "You will bleed for this world many times," she said gently. "Just make sure it deserves it." Zuri nodded. High above the known lands, far beyond sky metal and cloud breath, the gods of Azurali stirred. They had been watching, waiting. Some wanted Ibaku destroyed, some wanted the system to remain, but none of them could ignore Tiza. One god whispered into the fabric of the wind, "He was not meant to survive." Another answered, "Neither was rebellion." The balance cracked. The kingdom pushed back, harder, more soldiers, more weapons, more fear. One province fell overnight, not by battle, by fire in the sky. King Ibaku had activated an ancient weapon, a floating weapon long banned by the gods. Entire cities powered down. Lights died. Shadows flickered. Tiza saw it from a mountain. Zuri felt it in his chest. "This ends now," Zuri said. Tiza placed a hand on his shoulder. "No." Zuri turned. "We don't hide anymore." Silence passed between them. Then Tiza nodded. They didn't march alone. Villagers joined, healers joined, fighters joined. Even some of the throne's old soldiers switched sides. Not because they loved rebellion, but because they couldn't stand cruelty. Their armor varied, their shadows danced, but their direction was one. King Ibaku stood at his balcony, watching the horizon glow with scattered lights, not torches, movements, ideas, hope. And for the first time in his reign, he wasn't angry. He was afraid. They camped beneath a cold sky full of stars. The fire was quiet. Zuri sat polishing his armor. Tiza stood apart, thinking. Zuri walked up. "You never told me why you stayed." Tiza didn't turn. "If I had not—" He stopped. Zuri finished it. "I would have been dead." Tiza turned, and the world would still be asleep. They didn't hug, they didn't cry. Warriors don't. But something sealed between them. That night, Tiza dreamed, not of battle, of silence, of a world without shadows, of a world where children were not hunted for their light. A voice whispered, "You were not meant to survive." Tiza whispered back, "Then why did you save me?" Silence replied, "You saved yourself."
The Obsidian Capital did not fall in one night. Empires never do. They crack. They split. They breathe their last slowly. The sky above the capital burned a dull metallic gray, not with fire, but with tension so thick it felt like metal pressing against skin. The massive black spires of the palace reached into the clouds like claws. Their surface shimmered with old magic and forbidden technology. Below, the city gates stood sealed. Above, the king waited. And outside, a storm gathered. Not of rain, of people, of power, of truth. Tiza walked at the front.
His armor now seemed alive, every dent, every scar glowing faintly like a star trapped under metal. The air bent slightly around him, reacting to his presence. Behind him walked Zuri, no longer unsure, no longer asking why. He wore the silver, layered armor fully now, his purple shadow stretching wide across the cracked earth like a royal banner the world itself could not ignore. All around them stood warriors in mismatched armor, healers in white robes, villagers with sharpened tools, old soldiers who lowered their king's crest and walked under no banner. This was not an army. It was a reckoning. The gates slowly opened. Not because they were forced, because fear had already entered the city before they did. The city trembled, balconies cracked, stone pathways hummed. King Ibaku's servants had abandoned their posts. Only the most loyal remained, and even they could barely look toward the sky. Tiza raised his hand. The ground pulsed. A low hum traveled outward. The energy field protecting the palace collapsed. Not exploded, collapsed. Like surrender. Zuri's voice whispered, "He knows." Tiza answered, "Yes." King Ibaku stood in the throne room. The room was built of black crystal and floating metal bands that rotated slowly in the air. Ancient machines pulsed behind the walls. He was in full armor. Heavy, fire-lined, crowned with a helm that glowed faintly red. His shadow stretched across the floor, not large, but sharp, cold. Zuri stepped forward. The doors sealed behind them. No guards, no priests, no court. Just truth. King Ibaku, you walk in here wearing a myth. Zuri didn't raise his voice. I walk wearing what you tried to erase. Ibaku's eyes shifted to Tiza. And you? Tiza didn't answer. He never needed to. Ibaku stepped from his throne. You think the gods sent you? They did not. You think the people love you? Silence. They will turn. Silence. You think a boy can uproot a lineage built in blood and fire? Zuri stepped forward. I think the world is tired of screaming. The battle did not break the room. It did not shatter walls. It bent reality. Ibaku moved first, his red shadow exploding outward like a storm of burning glass. The air heated, the walls vibrated. Tiza stepped in front of Zuri and absorbed it. Fire lost shape against him, wind folded,
Water stilled. Zuri moved, not to kill, to confront. Purple light rose from his shadow and wrapped around his body, not like a weapon, but like a truth too heavy to ignore. Ibaku stumbled back. For the first time in his life, someone was looking at him without fear. The machines behind the throne began to shatter, not from force, but from rejection. They were powered by obedience, and obedience was dead. Ibaku removed his helm slowly. His face was older than his crown, tired beneath his cruelty. "You do not understand," he whispered. "The gods don't save people, they test them." Zuri answered softly, "Then we survived their test." Ibaku fell to his knees, not defeated, empty. Tiza stepped forward, placed a hand on his shoulder, not in mercy, not in hatred, in ending. Ibaku collapsed, not slain by blade, but buried by the weight of his own reign. The throne room opened. The city gathered, not as subjects, as witnesses. Zuri stood before the ancient seat. He did not rush. He did not smile. He turned to Tiza. "You brought me here." Tiza shook his head slowly. "You walked." Zuri turned back and sat. The purple light spread across the city, not like control, like healing. People cried, people knelt, people simply breathed. For the first time, Azurali felt light. He did not stay in the palace. He never wanted gold, never wanted title. He walked away quietly, not chased, not forgotten. Children began to speak of him, the one who had no shadow, but carried them all. He walks when tyranny rises. He appears when kings stop listening. Tiza walked into the wildlands beyond the provinces, where the shadows were soft, where the air sang differently, where gods whispered carefully now. Years passed. Zuri ruled with gentleness. Laws changed. Children grew without fear. One evening, Zuri stood on the palace balcony. The sunset burned gold and blue across the sky. Behind him, a flicker.
No shape, no form, just presence. He whispered into the wind. "Thank you, Shadowless One." The wind moved, soft,
contained, alive. Far beyond the capital, on a silent mountain ridge, Tiza stood. He looked back once, the realm of Azurali, shining. And for the first time, he had no weight to carry.